Well, good morning. This is Pseudo History. I guess I got to introduce everybody on the show. We got George over here. Oh, he's hiding behind the whiteboard.
Hey, man, don't forget about me, okay?
Oh, I would never forget about you. This is George.
Oh, in the camera. Hey, how's it going? My name is George. Thanks for being here. Oh, okay, well, put me back, man. You can't even get me in this scene properly. I'm not even in the picture. Just put me back behind there, okay?
Okay. Well, if you want in, just let me know.
I'll tag you.
Just getting used to all this camera angles and stuff. It's like walking around in a different dimension. Well, what is our topic today? Our topic today is crime scenes and Jesus. You got to think about Jesus and the whole crucifixion as a crime scene. So you have to take it from a criminal investigation. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to investigate. So here we got our crime scene, Jesus' crucifixion. So he was crucified, and who witnessed it? Well, the public apparently witnessed it, right? And it was a public execution done by the state. So the only question is, was Jesus innocent? Was a grave crime committed? Did they assassinate or crucify an innocent man? Now, back in the day, it's like you really could only be crucified for a few things. A couple of things. One, blasphemy and heresy. So blasphemy is just saying that you're God or the Son of God or you know God. So back then you weren't allowed to go around and say that kind of stuff. You weren't allowed to say, I'm God. I know God personally. Like everyone that goes like today, they go around saying that they know God. They know this man named Jesus who says he was God. No, you can't go around saying you're God or know God personally or some guy who knows God. You get what I'm saying? Anyways, all that aside, we have a crime scene. Now there's 5 different types of information. There's first-hand information, which is like the guy, Jesus himself, right? He's the crime was committed against him. So first-hand information is the person involved in the crime or who the crime was against. And first-hand information is also like the first one on the scene. So really the first one on the scene was the Roman who pierced the side of Christ. The authorities were already on the scene. So let's say I'm an investigator or I'm from the FBI because I don't believe in the authorities. We need the FBI or the CIA in here to figure this case out. And the FBI, the authorities are like, what are they doing? What are they doing here? And this is their jurisdiction. Anyways, we got a crime scene. And we got first-hand information. Second-hand information is someone who knows Jesus. So this crime takes place. They go talk to the relatives. They go talk to people who know Jesus. And then they talk to the vendors, a place where somebody, where they hung out or bought groceries or something. And then you got the media comes in there, starts taking the pictures. So that's like fourth-hand information. And then fifth-hand information is basically after the fact. Someone writes a book, a biography or something about it, or have some interviews and takes all the information from first, second, third, and fourth-hand information and piles into fifth-hand information. Like basically that's what Hollywood is. They're a fifth-hand information source. And they take all the hands of information and try to come up with a unified theory, which is, bold and courageous and all that. I'm not against Hollywood. I'm against some laws that need to start changing around here. That's what I'm against. Because people take advantage of the laws. So if the laws are corrupt, they're going to take advantage of those laws, period. So the laws are the problem, not the institutions, the laws. Anyways, we're not here to talk about the laws. We're talking about a crime scene, a crime that has been committed. And was Jesus innocent? Publicly executed. Now, you can't really be innocent of something if you offered yourself up, and that's what Jesus did. So you can go around saying you're God, and they'll basically crucify you. Or another way is you can commit heresy. Now, heresy is saying, I am the son of the king. That's heresy. So either Jesus was saying he was the son of God or he was the son of the king. Now, you know my theory, Jesus was actually the son of the evil king. And that Herod Antipas was his evil half-brother. But I couldn't possibly be right. Anyways, we're just talking about the hands of information here, and this is a crime scene. So we got the authorities or the FBI, the CIA show up, and they talk to John. But John is dead. But there's this thing called the Book of John. So that means he must have written it before he died. So if we're here in the future, we're going to go look, John was his cousin. That constitutes secondhand information. If anybody knew anything, it would have been John. Maybe even, there'd be a clue in the Book of John to why Jesus would be murdered. Now, Matthew was the tax man. That's third-hand information. But the tax man showed up every month, knocking on the door, looking for the taxes. So he may have met Jesus. He may have ran into Jesus while collecting taxes from Joseph and Mary. So it's a source. It's an authoritarian source. But at least we know that he was there once a month collecting taxes. Where also here we got cousin, even though John, the problem with secondhand information is that it could be biased in the sense you don't know the actual relationship between Jesus and John, but I assume they were pretty good terms. They weren't arguing and they weren't like enemies or anything like that. Because you don't know, like family members, they have grudges and you can never know, like your friends, there's a conflict of interest going on there. So unless you can really prove that the relationship itself was solid, you might want to skip the Book of John, and he was dead before the crucifixion anyway. So, but I don't mind reading the Book of John because if you ask me, it's a secondhand source of information. I don't think it has any bias in it. Then we got Luke. He was the doctor, and I don't think the doctor. They tell you a lot about how doctors did home. They came to your house. But even if they came to your house, I don't think Jesus, he was probably an adept in medicine at the time, or whatever was going on is medicine, probably a type of herbology of some sort. So I don't think Jesus was seeing the doctor much. So Luke is the doctor, although, he's a third-hand source of information. And I don't know, he barely spoke to the, Jesus's family, unless they got sick. And then you got Peter, which was Jesus's best friend. Now that guy, you might want to talk to him, but there is no Book of Peter. They got some of the other books that talk about Peter. So there's all this arguments. It's like, well, there is no real Book of Peter. Well, isn't that convenient that there's no real book of Peter. But apparently Peter was his best friend, but he was also the local fisherman, so he was a market. So that means I think Jesus did go to the market lots for fish, and his family go down and get some fish, probably talk to Peter a fair amount. So and I think the relationship was good. They're their best friends. So you're looking at Peter and John as a fairly good source of information. Of course, we know the complications involved in these two characters, and one happens to be dead before the crucifixion, and there doesn't seem to be any Book of Peter. Wow, how convenient. And you guys just take this. I don't get it, but you got to know this stuff. The hands of information. You can't, the Bible is mainly filled with third-hand information. So you're going to like assume that he's the Son of God based on a bunch of third-hand information? And so then we got Mark. See, Mark was Peter's friend, but we have a and he can actually be considered an NPC character. Now, NPC characters, they may know because they're just sitting there watching. You know, they're more like watchers and the witnesses of things. So Mark, as an NPC character, you know, you might want to consider some of the things he says, but essentially he's an NPC character and doesn't know a whole lot. Now, Paul was the modern day Pope. Now, did Jesus run into Paul here and there? Now, you know, according to my theory, Caligula was Lord, and became Emperor of Rome, was studied with Jesus in Egypt under Caesarion, well aware of Roman law, and may have met the Pope, especially as a young kid in Egypt. I don't know if that, I mean, he'd probably know. Like, he would probably know that Jesus was the son of King Herod, and that's why he was in Egypt, seeking sanctuary and asylum from his evil father. It's in Matthew. You just got to look in Matthew. It's there. I don't know why people do not take my theory seriously, because I'm telling you, everything else you guys are rambling on about does not fall into the realm of reality, which I call the reality of the situation. And you can't just include God in the story. That's not your liberty to do that. This is simply a criminal investigation. So he was the modern day Pope. So I don't even know. I mean, he would probably know if it was a Roman thing. He might know what was actually going on. So I would take Paul seriously, but he's also a source of fifth-hand information. Because fifth-hand information is like the Pope of his day, propaganda, or Hollywood, or, you know, and I don't really rely on Hollywood. Like, to say that Paul got it right is like saying Hollywood got it right. And, you know, maybe they did, you know, some of the things that come up, but I know there's stories where they don't, like, they didn't even come close. Wasn't even a very creative thing, but they pass it off because it was a blockbuster, and oh my God, and no, man, like, that's not what went down. You're just propagating more propaganda, you know, and you really can't take the information that's given by your own country. That's where propaganda starts. They're never going to say that they are the bad guys. No country's king is going to come forward, or any president is going to, any prime minister, any country is going to rise up and say, I am the bad guy. In every country, the president, they're always rambling on about how their country is good and the other countries are bad. That's not a matter of opinion. I can tell you which countries are good and which countries are bad based on ethics and morals. But you guys like to toss morals and ethics out the window for some reason, and logic and reason out the window for some reason. But it's not necessary. You don't have to be afraid to be logical. You don't have to be afraid to say no. Anyways, where are we? Paul, so he was the Pope of his day. And James, he was the town priest. And James is not the brother of Jesus. If you really know what happened, Mary was unable to have children after Jesus because of what happened. And Joseph wasn't, you know, able to have kids either because of what happened. So Jesus had no brothers and sisters. Anyways, James was the town priest, so he may have heard a few confessions in his day, but I don't think Jesus went to James with a confession. I must confess. No, Jesus was perfect. Jesus was the height of humanity. He died a virgin, and for the sake of his people, and he obeyed all the commandments every day of his life. He obeyed the 10 Commandments and he fulfilled ethical and moral laws. That's what makes him the greatest. That's what makes him the alpha. I'm borderline alpha. Close second. 7 out of 10 commandments. 10 commandments on a good day. I mean, how many commandments do you obey? Whether you're an atheist or not, whether you believe in God or not. How many commandments do you obey? Now, God is not a judge. He just wants you to do your best. And what happens in today's society is like, oh, you get one of the commandments and you're like, that's it. Who cares about the rest of the commandments? Because they tell me if I just disobey one of them, I'm going to hell. No, that's not how God operates. Let's wake up. So here's your information that you got, and who are you going to believe when it comes to all this? Are you going to believe the cousin that's dead, the book of John? Now, the book of Revelation was written by little John, St. John. The Bible itself was written by Germanicus. The Old Testament was written by Germanicus and his son Caligula, the Roman emperor after the crucifixion of Christ, who beheaded Herod Antipas. He wrote the New Testament, and St. John wrote the book of Revelation. Anyways, I don't know where I'm looking at. I know I'm not looking at the camera. I'm not sure how this works. I think, what am I supposed to be looking at? Do I look at anything other than myself on the camera? How's it going? I'm dying here, guys. Where are you going? Oh, sorry. That's funny. Okay, anyway, he had something to say there. I'm not sure. Does anybody speak dog? So, dog, what do you got your 2 cents in? Oh, Cerberus. Oh, let me get back in the picture here. Cerberus says no one cares. No one cares what really happened. So Jesus really was crucified for saying that he was the son of the king. And what he tried to do was, you have to understand that the Holy Land actually belongs to Egypt. So Jesus, being the son of the evil king, tried to seize Jerusalem, take power away from his evil half-brother, Herod Antipas. And when he was on the block, he simply went up there and said, I am the son of the king. And of course, that's an act of heresy because obviously he wasn't the king. But he was the son of his fathers. Herod Antipas was his evil half-brother. So all that really went on was that Jesus tried to seize the Holy Land and give it back to Egypt. And they crucified him for it. That's if you take God out of the equation. See, I have multiple theories. One that includes God, one that doesn't include God is more of a, an authoritarian thing. No real conspiracy, just he tried to seize the throne. They took him out. Regardless of whether he was an illegitimate heir to the throne or not. A pauper king. Anyways, I'm not really sure what else to talk about. No one's really showed up. Oh, there's somebody here. Anybody here? But you can put your name down in the chat. Hello!
Hey, man, what about me? Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah. Right. I think your dog is crazy. I think people do care. What about that dog?
anyways, I think we got the understanding of the difference between first, second, third, and fourth hand information. It's up to you to believe. Personally, I believe John, and I believe the book of Matthew as well, because he's the tax man. And I may not like what the tax man says, but I better believe what the tax man says. I may disagree with him, but I have to obey whatever the tax man says I owe. And I'm not big on Luke, because Luke's a doctor. I don't even believe in any of that. I just put all my faith in God and hope for the best. Peter, I believe Peter is his best friend. So anywhere where it mentions Peter, even though it wasn't written by Peter, you really have to pay attention to where Peter is mentioned. And Mark, a little bit of Mark, he was Peter's best friend. He was an NPC character. He really was a bit of a witness. But at the same time, it's like he didn't really know what's going on the inside. Because Peter's not just going to be blabbing, hey, now, did you hear about what Jesus did yesterday? I was hanging out with Jesus and he did this. That's not how relationships work. It's not, you don't ramble on about what you did with the person yesterday. And for me, Paul is a strong figure, but, he was part of the Romans. He was basically the Pope of his day and under a lot of influence and authority. So his writings are going to be either genuine. I don't know how did Paul die? Did Paul end up getting crucified? No, he went on to propagate the church. Pope Paul. And James was the town priest. He may have heard a few things through confessions. There's a lot to think about in this whole thing, but I guess that's it. Bye for now.